Okay, good morning, bonjour. Kathy Chavers, Tribal Chair of the Bois Forte Reservation. Alongside of me, I have Marion Holmes, who is our SORNA officer for the Bois Forte Tribal Court, and also our probation officer. This morning we are having a community meeting regarding our SORNA code. The SORNA acronym means Sex Offender Registration and Notification Code. At our last community meeting, we had decided to bring up some issues regarding the SORNA code, and a lot of the community didn't know what it was or what it stood for. So that's one of the purposes for today's session, is to just discuss what the code is, when it was adopted, and give the community some information with regards to this sex offender registry. The SORNA code, or Sex Offender Registration and Notification Code, was adopted in November 16th of 2011. And I believe a copy of the code is on the boisforte.com website. And then for any persons that want a copy of the code to review it, can get it from the tribal court from Marion Holmes here, or actually can request it from our front desk, and we'll leave some copies in both Vermilion and Net Lake. Basically what this is for sex offenders that come to the reservation. It says that they have to register if they're going to be here for a period of over 24 hours. So on November 16th, the adoption of this code 2011, we adopted this code, and also the Bois Forte Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act Policies and Procedures Manual. And that was adopted in Resolution 24, 2012. On August 5th, 2015, the Tribal Council adopted Resolution 2-2016, adding a Subdivision 7 to Section 508.1 as follows. And that was for the sentencing of sex offenders, and adding as a new section 608.06, the SORNA code violations, and also exclusion zones for sex offenders. The exclusion zone is basically one of the questions that the council had and wanted community input on, because the resolution 2-2016 states that the exclusion zones for sex offenders are any person who has been convicted of a sex offense as defined in the Bois Forte SORNA code, who, 1, reside within 2,000 feet of, or 2, enters upon the property, including the curtilage of any school, child care facility, youth center, playground, park, ball field, is guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. And so basically, I know that there's been some confusion with regards to the code when it comes to law enforcement and also for tribal court and for the SORNA officer. We currently do have sex offenders living on the reservation. This resolution that states that they cannot reside within 2,000 feet of a facility means basically no sex offender can reside on a Bois Forte reservation on either side of the reservation, Net Lake or Vermilion. And so basically we're saying that those people that are here will have to move. And that's one thing that we wanted input on from the community, because we have sex offenders who have only maybe had one conviction in 20 years, because it stays on their record forever. And basically they've had no instances. They are being checked on by outside probation agencies and with Marion. And so, is it really fair to not have them live here? But this is what we want community input on, because we can't make those decisions. It should be the community making those decisions. We also run into instances with regards to powwows. And so we do have individuals that have been convicted of sex offenses, and they want to come back and attend our powwows or our facilities. They have maybe funerals to attend. They maybe have family gatherings that they want to attend, both here and at Vermilion, and that also includes Fortune Bay. So it's a huge issue, but not a lot has been said about it. So that's one of the reasons we're here today, is to provide an educational session with regards to the SORNA code. There have been many questions regarding sex offenders and registration, and one is that any convicted sex offender that lives on the Bois Forte Reservation is employed by Bois Forte and or Fortune Bay, or visits longer than 24 hours must register. So if you're working here, you live here, and you're a registered sex offender, you must register with Marion Holmes. She's our SORNA officer. And I don't believe that's been being done as much as it should be. But that's why we're educating, because we want people to start doing that. The convicted sex offender must come to Bois Forte Tribal Court and register as a sex offender with Marion. So she would be the contact. Then the sex offender is given a copy of this code along with Resolution 2-2016. The information then is also put on the Bois Forte Band Public Sex Offender Registry, which is online where you can have pictures and know who the sex offenders are in your community. So that website is http://boisforte.n as in Ned, S as in Sam, O, P as in Paul, W as Walter.gov. The sex offender then signs a sex offender acknowledgement form stating they received a copy of the policy and the resolution. And so basically, this is really new to Bois Forte, even though it was adopted in 2011. It's just that it's been a code that really hasn't been addressed or looked at for quite some time, or brought to the forefront, let's put it that way. And so one of the reasons Marion is here is to answer any questions that people may have. And she is going to be updating the SORNA website and putting pictures on. She takes a picture of the sex offender and then puts it on the registry, and then people can look at it that way. So one thing we know that I believe it's been told that Bois Forte is the only one that bans sex offenders from the reservation through that resolution. And you know, there's been instances, and you know, that we know that sex offenses are some are very severe and some are very non-severe. I'll use an example from years past. I remember that there were young men, 18 maybe, going with a 17-year-old girl who was considered a minor. The parents didn't like who they were going with, might have been a native, and so they filed charges on the individual for a sex offense. And they may have been charged in court, but they were boyfriend and girlfriend. And so those types of situations arise, I don't think not so much now, but in the past. But if there's people like that out there, then you know, there's a situation where you've got an individual, a boyfriend, girlfriend, he has a sex offense on his record, but it was done by her parents. You know, this is just an example of how sometimes the systems can play. But then there are those more severe cases. And so the reason we implemented that, and the reason the Tribal Council implemented that first resolution to say we don't want sex offenders on the reservation is basically to keep our community safe. But is it fair to those individuals that may have been accused 20, 30 years ago and then are now going to be asked to leave their homes? And so that's why we wanted the community input. You know, should we put levels on it? If you've not had an offense for the past 20 years, you're being contacted by your probation or the SORNA officer on a regular basis. No more offenses. Should they be allowed to stay? If we have those that keep continually breaking the law and having sex offenses, that's a different story. So basically, the SORNA program is there for the safety of our children and our communities. And so basically we want everybody to have some input. Before we adopt anything, we need the community's input. And so, and then other issues arise with the casino. And for example, if someone's going to stay over 24 hours, non-Indians probably have to register with our SORNA office. Well, that's a really difficult thing to do when you're dealing with a resort. that has people coming in and out. Usually they only stay maybe 12 hours, or maybe they stay 18 hours. You know, it can be very complicated. And Fortune Bay has been bringing up their employees to register, but the question is, they completed everything through the state, and Bois Forte's code and the state's code is different. So that's where you have a difference with regards to the offenses. One thing that I talked to Marion about is that, and I don't know, we have Chief Burdick in our audience, but I'm not sure if the law enforcement or the SORNA officers are notified when a sex offender is released on the outside. Like, say if somebody's being released from the, let's say, from Stillwater, and they're a sex offender and they want to go back to the reservation.
We do
Can you use the microphone, Chief?
I guess we do get a thing by email.
Here's the microphone, because I don't know if they can pick it up on that.
Yeah, we do get a notification that from the feds saying that this person is being released and possibly coming back to the area.
Okay.
So we do get something, just like the last guy, we got something on him.
Okay. That's through the federal government, though, and then you notify Marion.
And through the state, I believe they send that out too, so.
To you?
Yeah,
Okay. How about the county?
the county, they probably get that same thing, so.
And so law enforcement is notified basically anytime that a sex offender is coming back
Yes.
to work. Okay. And then you'll notify, Marion. Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Chief. According to the code, there is supposed to be a meeting held within the communities where these people are coming. And I believe it's their level of sex offense and whatever, to notify them that they're moving into our communities. And I know that our tribal court is very small and what have you, but this is something I know that needs to be done, that hasn't been done recently. So I'm not sure, Mary, did you want to talk a little bit about that? Just how you're going to do it in the future?
When I'm notified that a offender is coming to the reservation, I will make arrangements, set up a meeting, a community meeting, to let everyone know. Via social media,
Okay.
letters.
Okay. So she'll be contacting the residences about that. And I'm not sure if the Net Lake School is aware of this program on the reservation. I will make sure that Mr. Veracek gets a copy of this at the Net Lake School. But for those that have questions, if you want, you can ask them now. Yes, Ms. Starkovich. I almost said Bodo. Sidra.
I just have a comment. As far as it looks like in the SORNA code, there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, which kind of indicates the severity or the, I guess the severity of the charges against the offender. And I just would like to comment that it looks like the tier 1 would kind of fall into that category, Kathy, that you mentioned of maybe the boyfriend-girlfriend situation, kind of a less severe offender. The tier 2 and tier 3 look like they're the more severe offenders, and I'd like to suggest that maybe those tier 2 and tier 3 offenders would maybe fall into a more, I don't know what the word would be, a more harsh or a more severe,
More required reporting?
more required reporting. I wouldn't say, banishment like it states right now in the resolution, where they can't even be on the reservation. But I think that they should fall into a more secure reporting. And gosh, I've had a cold for a month, so
Okay.
my brain isn't thinking.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? They need to be looked at more. There needs to be more close monitoring. Yes, that's the word.
Monitored on a more regular basis.
Monitored on a more regular basis and more upkeep on it.
Okay.
But as far as the tier one, I think that, you know, as far as the code goes, they're not required to have a meeting, a public meeting on those. Just the tier two and the tier three, because those I think are the ones with, you know, there's recidivism rates on them, and they're more apt to be reoffenders, more violent and that.
Good comments, Sidra, very good. Do we have any other comments or questions? Adrian? Or are you just stretching?
Okay, as far as powwow goes, okay, if a vendor comes, I would, okay, so I would like for, either something from Marion, stating that, I would need a name, you know, I mean, not broadcast, of course, but, just, and, like a set of, like standard operating procedures, the only thing I can think of, you know, to, what to do when this person, and that, I think that's all I would, you know, need to do, rather than, because I don't have a whole lot of time, speculating who is the offender or not, based on, you know, people sitting around or in and out of here. So, I think that would take a whole, we'd have to have another person, being that involved. So, if you said, develop, great way of informing myself and
The college personnel?
They're listed on the website, so if you want to go on the website to see who is on there, but I can also let you know.
Can you mention that website again?
Sure. Oh, I got it.
I think
Okay,
there's a link
it's
on the website. There's a link on the website too, I think also.
What?
There's a link on the Bois Forte website.
Okay. There is a link on the Bois Forte website. The website is boisforte, N as in Ned, S as in Sam, O, P as in Paul, W as Walter.gov.
We have a question from somebody on YouTube, and they said, what do the state codes regard this topic, such as, well, okay. His first question is, what does Minnesota State Code state regarding sex offenders and their living situation? What I mean is, what do the state codes regard this topic, such as places that they can't live?
As far as the state go, I'm not sure what that is, because state jurisdiction does not apply on the reservation. So we adopted our own code, but as far as I know, I don't believe they've gone to the severity that we've gone to with regards to banning them from public places. Chief, do you know anything about the state side?
That's just similar, like, they just gotta register when they do come to the community.
Okay.
And I think they do hold public meetings, letting them know that the sex offender is living in the community.
Yeah, the main thing is that they register. We noticed that through public media and the news on the TV that they tell when a sex offender is being brought into their community or wants to live in their community. But as far as banning or limiting or restricting somebody from a park or whatever, only Bois Forte has done that. I don't believe the state has taken it to that extreme. Josh?
So, what was the comment again? Oh, they have to be 2,000 feet from
Oh, yes.
places of business?
Yes, well, basically, here it is, sorry. The exclusion zones for sex offenders resides within 2,000 feet of or enters the property of any school, child care facility, youth activity center such as a Boys and Girls Club, a playground, park or ball field, and that is guilty of class 1 misdemeanor.
Isn't that wouldn't that kind of restrict them from accessing
Yes, it does.
human services for like possible treatment, rehabilitation?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I think that we need to look at this resolution again and amend it somehow, is because, you know, those people, a lot of people want to move home. And they may need support services. They may need some mental health, chemical dependency, or substance use disorder. They may want to establish maybe a group, a talking circle. I mean, anything, even a traditional way of dealing with it through coming back and seeing a spiritual advisor or whatever. So that does limit them with that ability to access services. So you bring up a good point, language. Also, you can forward any questions you have to YouTube. We are online. And then also, once we're done today, you can forward any questions either to Marion Holmes, and I'll have her give her website, or her email, her email out. And then also maybe to Jenna Letty or the Tribal Council. But I'll have Marion give out her email address.
It's mholmes at boisforte-nsn.gov.
So that's Marion's contact if you have any questions. If we don't have any further questions, we'll end the session for today and hope to have more in the future regarding this and getting more input. We'll probably try to have an evening meeting, maybe at Fortune Bay, where we can have a meal and get people there to, because this isn't at Lakeside, so we'll kind of go back and forth and keep educating people on this to assist Marion with the job that she has to do with regards to this. And she will be working with the offenders that are currently on the reservation. But yes, we have another comment or question by Sidra Starkovich.
Yeah, I just have one more comment. I'd like to also share that that there should be some issue with if they are not reporting. You know, if they fail to report, and if they're not reporting, there should be consequences for that. And this should be a place where, you know, yes, they should come back if they're needing healing and if they're needing a place to rehabilitate and come home to. But there are rules to follow, and if they're not following those rules, there should be consequences for those. And if they're not reporting, then they need to enforce the rules and have consequences for those.
And I believe in the code, there are, on page 24 of the code, there are offenses, if there are, I guess, repercussions. It says failure to appear for registration and absconding. In the event a sex offender fails to register as required by this court, the SORNA officer or his or her designee shall immediately inform the jurisdiction that provided notification that the sex offender was to commence residency, employment, or school attendance with that tribe, that the sex offender failed to appear. And if they receive information that the sex offender has absconded from the SORNA compliance officer, they will make a report also. And if they can't be located, they will notify the police department, and the police department then will notify proper authorities, and a warrant probably would be issued. So there are ways to do that in here. Basically, I think in order for this code, and because it's an old code but not really addressed or talked about a lot, it's something that we do have to take seriously, and that we will be enforcing this, and that's why for the community meetings, so it's not something new to people. It will also be posted, I think we'll post it at the community buildings where people could actually read it if they want, or if you need a copy, we'll say you see the receptionist. But this is really important to keep our community safe, but also for those individuals who do want to come back, who would need services and stability in their lives, because we always know that some people do reform. And we're looking at re-entry programs for those that have been incarcerated or put in jail, and people can change. So if there aren't any other comments or questions, we'll close this little community session, and watch for the website, and we'll get notices out regarding a further meeting, evening meeting, where people can attend after work, and maybe a small dinner on the Vermilion side in the near future. So I want to say miigwech to Marion. I want to say miigwech to the tribal council members that are here. We have Dave Morrison, Peter Bodie, and Travis Morrison, Chief Burdick, Jenna Letty. We have some Vermilion residents and Net Lake residents here. And Shane Drift is on leave today due to he wouldn't be able to be here, so he does regret he is not able to attend. He has an appointment that he has to attend to today. So thank you all very much, miigwech, and any questions, again, please relay them back to us or to Marion Holmes, our SORNA officer. Miigwech, have a good day.